There has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 201, The Life Cycle of Change. Welcome back, my Veg Your Besties. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I want to talk about the life cycle of behavior change quite a bit this summer. It's because most of us moving in a vegan direction, well, what that means is some changes in our behavior, some changes in our choices, some changes in what we see as normal daily choices, and what we want to reinvent or fine-tune or challenge ourselves with. Now, knowing that behavior change has an actual science or life cycle to it, I think it's something that can be very, very helpful for all of us, and certainly for most of us moving in a vegan direction, because there is science. There are some standard processes to how we make changes in our behavior. So knowing that can be helpful, and this is probably our first foray into understanding what that looks like and maybe seeing where we are in any number of behaviors on that continuum of behavior change. Now, I think in this society there is a lot, I don't think anyone would argue with me, there's a lot of default architecture. There's a lot of reinforcement socially and economically and politically to consume animals, to eat processed, hyper-palatable junk food, to be sedentary, to be addicted to screens and shopping and all sorts of things that keep us sick and consuming and passive and unquestioning. So to step out of any of it, even to make little baby steps out of any of it, that actually means changing behaviors that are very practiced, that are really easy for us, that we've already got dialed in. Behaviors that are often very pleasurable and keep us connected to other people. So I think that when we know that behavior change is a process and that it has steps that are very typical and predictable, and that we can actually recognize where we are in that process, I think that can be very freeing. And I think it can help you to avoid judging yourself harshly or avoid giving up when you're at step 1, but actually kind of judging yourself based on being at step 5. Now, there are a number of different behavior change models some of them are more applicable to business and some of them are more applicable to addictions. Today we're going to talk about one of them, and that's called the DiClemente and Prohaska Stages of Change model. And this particular model was originally used to help people overcome addictions and problematic behaviors, such as alcohol or drug use, overeating, smoking. But now it's, I think, useful in a variety of ways as one of the standard models for helping any individual make changes they want but are currently struggling to stick with. Now, the DiClemente Prohaska Stage of Change model has 5 stages, sometimes 6, but we'll talk about the 5 stages. And those are pre-contemplation, not yet acknowledging there's any kind of a problem that needs to be changed or that they want to change. Stage 2 is contemplation, which is more of an acknowledgement that there's maybe something that could be different, but not really sure yet. Preparation, that's the third stage, and that's kind of getting ready to make changes. Stage 4, action, which is the process of actually changing behavior. And then 5, maintenance, which is dealing with the different issues that come up with long-range behavior change. So, pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. Now, I'll go a little more into it, and then we'll talk about where that is for people on a vegan or plant-based journey. Now, stage 1, pre-contemplation, people are just not thinking seriously about changing. They're not really interested in any kind of help with that change. People in this stage, in the pre-contemplation stage, they tend to defend their current choices. They may be even defensive when other people mention those ideas to them, and they don't see themselves as needing change. So that's pre-contemplation. Stage 2, contemplation. This is when people are beginning to weigh some of the pros and cons of modifying their behavior or leaning into a different behavior. And they may start thinking about some of the negative aspects of their current choices and some of the positives associated with changing. But typically they will doubt that the long-term benefits associated with change would outweigh the short-term costs. That's contemplation. They're thinking about it. Stage 3, preparation. Now, in this preparation stage, people are trying on the idea of some sort of determination. People have made some level of commitment of wanting to make a change. You know, their motivation in the determination preparation stage, it's usually coming through in statements like, you know, I'd really like to, or I kind of have to do something, or I really ought to change, but what could I even do? And in the preparation stage, there's often, it's often aligned with research and looking into things, gathering information about what would that take, what would it look like. And very often, I find that people skip this stage, or they not just skip it, but that they discount the stage of trying to figure out their why. Why do they want to make a change? Why do they want to look into this different kind of behavior? And they sometimes neglect to acknowledge that this is an important part of making the change. They kind of want to leapfrog into action, which is stage 4, action. And this is the stage where people are very motivated to change their behavior. They're active in taking steps to change the behaviors that they want to get rid of by using a variety of different techniques. And very often this can be the shortest of the stages, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a long period of time where people start to really hone their discipline feelings. They hone their making a commitment to show up every day in a certain way, or every week in a certain way, or every meal in a certain way. They're making overt efforts to change behavior. Now, this is also when they are at the greatest risk of what some people would call relapse, or giving up, or thinking, nope, this isn't for me. But hopefully, with enough action and with some thoughts about how action is not always perfect and it still can be very helpful, with stage 4, that action can lead to stage 5, which is a more long-term idea of maintenance. Maintenance involves being able to successfully give up the old behavior, change to the new behavior, and it means that in this stage, the practice is also reminding themselves how much progress they've made, rather than what they haven't quite achieved or accomplished yet. People in maintenance are typically acquiring bit by bit new skills to deal with the obstacles and challenges that make the behavior change challenging. And they're able to anticipate better some of the situations which could make those changes difficult. And they can start to prepare coping strategies and methods that they can use ahead of time rather than being on the back foot and responding all the time. So I think it's important to remember that if you are in the maintenance phase, there's no such thing as done. You know, behavior change, even if you haven't repeated a behavior in a really, really long time, it's not because you're done with that old behavior necessarily. It's just you have successfully incorporated many new behaviors that take that space up for you. So it's important. It's important to kind of think about that none of these is one way or another, and we should have a lot of compassion for ourselves all along the way. So some techniques that will help you progress through your change plan, wherever it is. This is what we're going to talk about for a vegan or a plant-based diet. But it's true no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish. So we can transition to a plant-based or vegan diet by mapping those 5 stages of the change model to this particular issue. And in stage 1, pre-contemplation, well, that's you when you're not even considering a plant-based diet, or you're not even considering what it means to be an ethical vegan. You may be unaware of the potential benefits. You may have misconceptions about the idea. And in the pre-contemplation period, the stage, you or maybe someone in your life may believe that a plant-based diet is actually inadequate or too restrictive, or that it would be impossible in your particular situation or at your age. Stage 2, contemplation, you begin to recognize, well, there are some attractions for you about a vegan lifestyle, and there may be some potential benefits of a plant-based diet, but you're not quite ready to commit. You're contemplating. Maybe you'll start researching veganism, or maybe you'll watch a documentary or keep an eye open, half open maybe, for famous vegans or people in your extended friend group who might be experimenting with an occasional plant-based meal. Or you might be noticing some of the things on the menu at a restaurant you go to that says vegan options available. So this is the contemplation stage. The preparation stage, number 3, and at this point, you might actually be planning what it would look like to transition to a plant-based diet. Maybe you're gradually reducing some animal products, or saying, you know what, I no longer eat these 3 animal products. Maybe you're trying a few new plant-based recipes, or maybe even setting a date to begin a vegan challenge, maybe a 30-day challenge, or a meatless Monday challenge, or maybe something like the vegan January challenge that's become very famous in the last 10 years or so, Veganuary. Stage 4, action. In the action stage, you're actively implementing some changes to the foods you're consuming or the things that you're buying. And you might be doing this on your own. Maybe you're following some sort of a step-by-step guide, or using a vegan or plant-based cookbook as a guide. And you'll probably find yourself educating yourself more during this stage, really delving into books and YouTube documentaries and other documentaries and lectures from plant-based nutrition experts and physicians, and exploring different vegan options. You will know that you are in the action stage when you are actually taking lots of action. And then you'll find yourself in step 5. We hope, right? Maintenance. Now, maintenance is a tricky place too, but when you find yourself concentrating on how to keep your choices and intentions sustainable for the longer period, that is your clue that you're in maintenance. Maybe you're looking ahead to a trip on the calendar or an event or a wedding, and you're thinking, that's going to be a little bit out of my control comfort zone. How am I going to handle that? This is the area you're going to start noticing what parts of your plant-based diet or your vegan lifestyle still feel kind of rough or awkward or difficult. And during this period, you might find yourself reaching out to others and experimenting a little bit more, communicating a little bit more about the change that you want to be making. This is a period of time where you might find yourself connecting with a vegan community and attending plant-based events, maybe in person, maybe online, maybe like I did, you might be really actively looking for vegan podcasts and Instagram accounts where you see people making vegan choices, plant-based choices in a variety of situations. Now, through all these stages, all 5 stages, it's very, very important to remember that the transition to a plant-based diet, this is a very personal journey. And no 2 pre-vegans start in exactly the same place. Some people already eat lots of vegetables. Some people already have a lot of disposable income. Some people have a lot of free time to do a lot of the research that might need to be done. So no one starts in exactly the same place. And as with all change, some people may progress through some or all of these stages more quickly. Others may take more time, or they might move back and forth between the stages. And the key is to really remember that the model is helpful. This behavior change model is helpful because it should help you see that it's a process that doesn't have one and done. You're not going 1 pre-vegan, 10 A+ vegan, done forever. The key is to approach this whole process with patience and flexibility and to focus on gradual, sustainable changes when the going gets a little bit tougher, when you're with people who don't get it, when you're in a place where you can't find what it is you're looking for. Now, what I like about these change models that I'll be talking about this summer is that they remind us that if this was easy, you'd already be doing it, right? My husband and I had a contractor years and years ago who used to say, if it were easy, your brother-in-law could do it. Now, in-laws get a lot of cheap laughs, don't they? But the thing is, I don't think we get a lot of satisfaction in this life about just doing what's easy. I think what we do want is to look for ways to feel ease and peace and safety around doing challenging things. And I think that's where these behavior models, these behavior change models are helpful, because you can see that you are safe. You are not failing at it. You are in a process. Now, in coaching, we always want to look for how a positive, safe mindset can help us do what we actually do want to do. Because if we're just noticing, that's too hard, he's not for it, she's not supportive, where I live is a vegan food desert, I travel too much, my colleagues don't support me. If we're always thinking about what's hard, we can't work on what we can do. And so many of us have been socialized to think that if we have a hard time doing something, that's evidence that it's not for us. Too many of us have been socialized into thinking that we need to be doing A+, or at the very least A- work. And if you haven't heard it from me yet, there's no such thing as an A+ vegan. And even assuming that something like an A+ vegan was a thing, well, it would make no sense that you began at that level, right? A vegan practice is where we keep committing to practice, day to day, choice by choice. We keep committing to learn or improve the skills that support limiting and eliminating the consumption of animal products to the best of our abilities today. I hope that visualizing these models of change in your brain, my brain, I hope it helps us to notice what part of us is right now in pre-contemplation about something, and which part of us is maybe in action, or maybe even in the maintenance stage. All of these stages, noticing where we are, can help us to make peace with where we are. And whether you're newly employed or a new parent, new at golf or new on a plant-based practice, it can also help you to notice, wait, I'm trying to do the things in the maintenance stage of this new undertaking, but actually I'm really in the contemplation stage. I don't know if I'm fully understanding what this is going to mean for me. Or maybe I'm in the action willpower stage, and there are things for me to reinforce and practice right now, like how to ask for vegan options when it seems awkward, or when no one's being very helpful or supportive. Or maybe right now I'm noticing that I haven't been taking my vitamin B12 supplement consistently. You should be. I think you should be. I think that's kind of a non-negotiable. You should be taking a B12 supplement and talking to your primary care provider about that. Or maybe you're at a stage where you're not really eating enough plant-based food, so you're not really feeling fully satisfied. And when you're not satisfied, you end up feeling like, oh, I just can't stick with this. Now, this is yet another of the 97,000 reasons I think that coaching can be so valuable for you, especially if you're someone who is impatient with your progress and someone who thinks that this could be too hard for you to do perfectly. Because, yeah, it is probably too hard for you to do perfectly. It's probably too hard for anyone to do perfectly. Perfectly, I don't think, belongs even in our brains about the idea of something as important as your health, your compassion for the planet, and your compassion for your fellow earthlings. But if you keep thinking, oh, I'm not that good at it, and you use that to think it's too hard, it's too late, and it won't make any difference, that's defeating your ability to really make the kind of change I'm sure that you want to make in one area of your life or another. A vegan journey is not a sprint. It's not a sprint, my Veg Your Bestie. It's not just something where you can do a couple of all-nighters, pass the test, and then be done with it. And a lot of us have been socialized to that model of getting things done by just, gritting our teeth and getting it done and then moving on. There's no real moving on in this situation. But it is also a tremendously satisfying, gratifying way to live. And I think it will inspire you to take on so many other beautiful challenges in your life. What if you knew you never had to be perfect at anything ever, and that you could develop so many parts of your life? You could enjoy so many new capabilities in your life if you just gave up that idea of doing it to a level that someone else would approve of. Next week, I'm going to talk about another change model that often helps my clients realize that they are actually on target and that they are in the right place. And yes, if you're in midlife or if you identify as an elder in our community, too many of us spend time thinking about what used to be, and we aren't as excited as we could be about what's next. And I also think that this change model of pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, I think that can give most of us a lot of insight and compassion for the people in our lives who aren't making the progress we think that they should. Because when we're frustrated about what seems like a lack of progress, when others are frustrated with us, well, that's a very powerful recipe for giving it up, for just giving up the whole idea. I think that's something we really want to avoid. Because if you have a reason to move in a vegan or a plant-based direction, please do not give up. Even if you can't do it to the level that you think you should be able to do it, please just don't give up. And if you're vegan and others are not doing it the way you think is best, please do your best to help others be good to themselves rather than criticize them. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I keep looking off my laptop where I'm recording this. I keep looking over to a pile of books and papers. I have a lot to take care of in my own life. So no matter where you are, I want only to encourage you. I only want to help you. I only want to remind you that change is always a process. And you can for sure get out there today, no matter what, and veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.